In this episode of the Military Mindset for Business podcast, I'm talking with the one, the only Matthew Moseley. Matty is a great mate of mine. He's also my business partner, army mate, and he is the wind beneath my wings, or me, vice versa. Today, we are talking about CRM and why every business must have a CRM. And we also talk about what CRM you should choose. And we also talk about why we like HubSpot in particular. So stick around and listen to this episode of the Military Mindset for Business Pod. In this session of the Military Mindset for Business podcast, I'm talking with my mate, Matt Moseley today. G'day, Mose.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Mate, I'm good. Thank you for joining us on the podcast for the veteran business community. So if anyone doesn't know, Mose, you and I are a little bit like peas in a pod, mate. Birds of a feather flock together.
It's a very easy story. If you know Pete's, you know mine. So it's pretty much one for one with everything we've done since Pete was about 40 and I've been about 18. So
40. Now I did turn 50 on the weekend, and it was a good bash. Thanks for making your way up the Central Coast and having a quiet beer or two with us.
yeah, it was good fun. I think
Good fun.
a lot of my clothes still smell like smoke from all that fire that we had, but no, it was good fun.
So I grew up in a little place called Katoomba in the Blue Mountains. Funny little quirky town it is, and the dress code was Katoomba chic. So anyone on YouTube will notice, good old fashioned flanny, mate. A flanny and a fire pit. That's the extent of a top night out in the Blue Mountains. Hey Mose, today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about digitization, automation, and particularly software, marketing technology, CRMs, and why we particularly choose HubSpot for our business. So what I'd like to quickly do, though, just give us an intro on yourself. Where did you grow up and why did you join the Army?
Yeah, so again, pretty similar to Pete. I didn't grow up in Katoomba, but I grew up at the foot of the mountains down in the mighty Penrith. So born and
With two
bred.
Fs?
Yeah,
Penrith
with
with
two
two
Fs, of
Fs?
course. Penrith, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still cop a lot of heat from my girlfriend from the way I say Fs or THs because it's off. But that's just how I've always said it. So but yeah, grew up in Penrith, born and bred there, went to, a rugby league high school, St. Dom's, even though I didn't play rugby league. But I don't know, I was always had an interest in the military from a young age. I think my mum sent off for some information about the military when I was in year 10. And I remember getting back some stuff around being a helicopter pilot. And I think I liked the idea of that, even though I didn't really know what it meant. And
Very cool.
obviously in the future, that was never gonna happen. But yeah, I suppose when I was younger, I can't say I did too well at high school. I think I got like a 60 UAI. I scraped uh, into uni doing social science and pretty much the only course I could do. And yeah, I think one day I saw online that there was an option where the army would pay for your degree, and I thought, yeah, cool, that sounds good. I was keen in the army. Funnily enough, they weren't very interested in my social science degree, but they were interested in me joining up. So luckily, they still sent me through.
Well, mate, there's not too many things I one up you on, but I got 66 in my UAA, which was it's called TER when I did it. And that was like a thrusting score for Katoomba High School. I was probably in the top 5% of the school at,
Dunce
66.
to the school.
But
Ducks.
I do remember when I was trying to go to uni, just going page after page, and it's like, nope, too low, nope. Just being able to have to actually have a look at, what courses would even accept the score that low. So, and
Yeah, it's good
ultimately I did
fun.
horticulture. Good fun. Um, right now, so now you're in the military. I'm going to do a very quick fast forward because we did the same thing. We went to Duntrent at the same time. We both became logisticians. We both did, tour of Afghanistan and East Timor, and we both went out and started a business together. Now, just share a couple of bit more of your worries on. You went to Bougainville, and you also did that trip with the British Navy. So they're pretty well the two things that you did that I didn't.
Yeah, again, war is a loose term. The UK trip was a great one. It was an attachment to the UK Navy/Marines as part of an amphib capability because I was at the amphib task group at the time. It was great for a couple of reasons. Number one, I met them in Greece, in Crete, and as such, I got to fly business class. You know, a 25-year-old kid flying business class for the first time. I think it was Emirates as well. So I had the little stand-up bar where you could go and sit there, and turbulence would kick in, and I thought I had to go back to my seat. They just, you know, buckled me in at the bar, and I could just keep sitting there drinking. So that was great.
Hang on a sec. Hang on a sec. I've never been on Emirates. They buckle you in at the bar, like you stand up and you put a seatbelt around you or something.
Well, they've got little stools, and so I was like, they're like, oh, turbulence. So I thought I had to go back to my seat, and they just sort of pulled out this buckle, and I just sat there
That's
bouncing
tough.
around, still finishing my drink. It was great. Um, so yeah, got there. It was a really really cool trip. We literally joined them in Crete. Sailed through Suez Channel, went through Oman, Qatar, UAE, ended up in India and Pakistan doing a lot of regional engagement on the main ship, the HMAS Bulwark. But it was part of a larger fleet of ships that were doing training, anti-piracy, anti-terrorism exercises, and real life stuff. And yeah, it was just a really cool trip. I think it was 3 months. I think at the end of it, again, sort of you started to learn your way in the military. I was meant to get off and it was meant to be going down to Gibraltar, but then they changed their mind and they were going to Pakistan and India. And I sort of went, yeah, you know what? I'd really like to go to Pakistan and India. I've never been before. It's pretty different place. So I went to my boss on the ship and I was like, you know,
I stick
I
around.
just spoke to my Australian boss. He said, I'm free if you need me for a few more weeks, which, my Australian boss hadn't. And then emailed my Australian boss and said something along the lines of, they think I'm doing a really good job. They'd like me to stay another couple of weeks if that's okay.
Nice. Shape this,
And so
shape the ground.
got the email back and both were ecstatic that I could stay. So that was nice. But yeah, ended
Well
up
played. Well played.
getting a few days in Pakistan and a few days in India, which is cool.
Mate, there's
Um,
not that I one up you too many times as well, but you've been to those countries and I haven't, so there's a couple. But there's still the global race for ticking the most countries off here between us. But
yeah.
I'm gonna swing by India in a couple of months and take that one back off you. Um, Bougainville, what'd you do in Bougainville?
Yeah, but Bougainville was basically operator safe. It's part of a regional commitment within the South Pacific to pretty much support like third world countries and remove unexploded ordnance from World War II. So they do rotate between different countries and different areas within those countries. So this rotation was up into Bougainville. Again, part of the Amphib Task Group. We sailed up, from Sydney on HMAS Choules. We were still waiting for the LHDs to come in. They didn't really show their faces while I was at the Amphib Task Group, so we are playing around on Choules all of the time. But yeah, basically went up as part of the headquarters and supported, the removal of UXOs from the area, which was pretty eye-opening. Bougainville itself is a pretty a pretty beautiful place, but it is definitely very third world. There's not really any electricity. It's all huts. And the locals there, some of the happiest people you've seen, but they don't have much. But that was pretty cool. Obviously, I wasn't out there, picking up bombs. I think my main contribution to the mission was, hearts and minds through organizing a
That's a
friendly
mind.
soccer match against the locals. Which was great fun. A lot of them had come, heard about the soccer match and traveled from far and wide. Obviously none of them had shoes. That they just loved playing sport and loved competing, and it was a good fun day.
I love that, mate. Hearts and minds. Yeah, you're killing me.
That's it.
I actually had to turn the mic off
Make,
because I started choking and coughing
make
so hard.
yourself make yourself sound important, right? That's what
Yeah,
it's all
that's
about.
it. And you're like, it's not that I took any satisfaction at all in the fact that you missed that Timor medal by just a couple of days as the postie in Timor.
Yeah,
So,
I know. There's a
but
few.
mate,
There's a few like that.
but at least I hear they've hooked you up for a render safe, mate. So fluffing up the chest a little bit more. Get another gong in
So
the rack.
30 days required, 31 done. So I'll take my
Oh.
render
Nah,
safe gone.
31 done. Again, just to sort of refresh the skip forward, Matty and I got into the army together. We got out of the army together. We started our first little business called Secure Windows. That thing kicked off and did all right. Then we won the Prime Minister's Veteran Employment Award for Veteran Employer of the Year, purely because of Hawley and Hawley's dog and that great video that they took for us. Shout out to Hawley out there. But that was a reason that started VBC, or because that's when we got invited to a lot of veteran employment think tanks, and we were just there like, this isn't for us. We want to start businesses. So we kept starting businesses, and basically we own pretty well half each of each other's stuff. The second wife, I don't know who's the wife out of the two of us, but basically we got half of each other's stuff. We've started all these businesses. One's called Offshore Talent. The other one's called TTP Digital. And we co-founded this thing, VBC, together. But today I really want to talk about some fundamental structures about what's really helped us in business, and particularly CRM, so customer relationship management. I want this to be more about you than me, because your business that you run, I run VBC, you run TTP Digital, or Trusted Process Digital. Tell us first of all about that.
Yeah, so TTP Digital is a few things. First and foremost, it's a digital agency, specializing in CRM onboarding and optimization. We do provide marketing services and also work within AI process automation as well. What does all that mean? A lot of those are buzzwords, especially AI and automation. But in the end, it comes down to a couple of things. And what we look to do is we look to systemize, automate, delegate. So that's sort of the mantra that we really take towards every project. And what does it actually mean? So like systemize is really the first step around understanding process and how things work. A lot of the time people talk about the outcome and what they want to happen, and a lot of the time that might be, oh, I want AI to solve this. But AI is how you leverage process. Basically that's the enabler. Like it all comes down in the first instance to the system, and what are the steps to achieve something, and then you can look at leveraging that through technology and through AI. So we always start first and foremost with the system, and we would always start that by understanding what are the steps we need to take. From there, once we have those steps and we identify that, we take that and we automate that into systems, into platforms. So most often we would then automate that into a CRM. Within the automation of your CRM and your platform, we want them to talk to other platforms. So we want to make sure that your Gmail is connected to your CRM. So anytime you send an email, it's going to log that against a specific record. We want to make sure that your accounting software is connected to your CRM, so that anytime that an invoice is sent, it can be linked to that record. If you've got proposal software, if you're using any other tech, we want them all linked, and that can be done natively or through like a third party or through API, so that we can really have everything communicate in that one spot. What we really are after with this automate process is to really create a single source of truth for your business, so that you have a spot where everything sits, and realistically have a place that can really run your business so you don't need to. And then the final step is delegate, which is basically teaching you or yourself or your team how to use that system, so they can operate effectively and efficiently.
I'm going to cut through that and pick out one thing that you said, and that is the one source of truth. And I think this is, so first of all, CRM, customer relationship management tool. I always describe them like cars. There's people that like Holdens, Fords, Toyotas. You can get a shitbox, cheap one. You can get a Ferrari. It all depends what you need. But as long as you're in a car and you're going down the road, you're making massive improvements in your business. For me, I always look at CRM as probably the one key tool that is ultimately going to mean that if you want to sell your business, that you might not have to stick around. Because without that one source of truth, then it means everything's probably either in your head or in a notebook or in papers under the floor of the car or something. It is so important to have this one source of truth. Before we go into the types of CRM and why we use and what we recommend, what do you see as some of the cores of what the platform should be doing in every business, in layman's terms?
Yeah, like number one, what every CRM does at its most basic is it's a method to store data.
It's a database.
Yeah, it's a database. It's a method to manage and store data. Like the way it does that is in different ways. So most CRMs, in fact, the majority of them will all store data in certain ways, where you'll have contacts to the individuals, you'll have companies, which are obviously the company, you'll have deals or opportunities, which quite often are your sales process, and then you'll have tickets, which could be operationally. Those four methods there are methods that allow you to, number one, house all your contacts in one single spot so that you can market to them, track your process through deals and opportunities so that you can see your sales process and you can open it up and see, all right, how many new inquiries have I had this week? Through companies, you can then manage accounts, and then tickets, then you can manage and see, customer service inquiries, operational requirements. So they're basically, it's just about managing data. And, the way I always sort of equate a CRM, because a lot of the time CRMs will do a lot more than that, is realistically, we want it for the foundation, and the data management is the foundation. If you can get that right, then you can grow everything from there. That's where you can start enhancing reporting, or start, further marketing segmentation, or start, building websites, or doing a range of different things with what you can do with CRMs. But if you get that like foundation level correct, then that's where all the golden stuff will happen.
So I'm going to share my 4 levels of CRM success. Number 1, just reconfirming yours. One source of truth, getting everything out of your head, getting everything out of your team's head. No opportunity or no contact or no communication should be outside of that portal. So the one source of truth is number 1. Layer 2 for me is a sales process that cannot leak. And that is where we build our sales pipelines and we track opportunities from the first touch, second touch, fifth touch, all the way through to the point where they either say yes, no, or maybe. My 3rd level of CRM success is marketing that supports conversion. Because if there's certain tools like email marketing, social media marketing, that if you understand where people are on the journey with you, you can send a tailored message to them knowing exactly what their next steps are. And last but not least, and I'll get you to unpack a little bit more about this later, is data-driven decisions. The ability to be able to have, effective reports and dashboards so that you're not doing things on the hunch or the vibe or marbo, but you're actually doing things, with purpose from actual data. When it comes to a sales pipeline, what are some of the things that you recommend that people should be capturing in those pipelines?
Yeah, well, again, with pipeline, it comes down first and foremost to process. So it's about identifying what those steps should look like. And, in the first instance, it's, what are the milestones or events that need to occur through, getting them from A to B. So you get an inbound inquiry, then I want to get them to a discovery call, then I want to get them to, a contract sent, then I want to get them to close one. So you need to identify those steps, and there can obviously be a lot more steps by a sales process. But at the same time, we do want to keep it simple. Underneath that, we're looking for a few different things. We're looking for what tasks need to occur, so that we can track and see what we need to do under each step. We're looking at what automations and integrations we can connect, both within the pipeline, whether that be they book a meeting and it moves the deal forward to a new stage, or it's integrating with another system to pass data. We're looking at what messaging we need to have, whether that be through email or SMS, to make sure we're having nurture points and touch points with the client. And then finally, we're looking at information that we need to gather. So a lot of the time, that'll be asking the right questions at the right time. And we call that our golden thread. So, making sure we're picking the right bits of detail out at the right time to make sure we've got a really consolidated process that'll allow us to be really clear how we want to achieve things, and almost make it foolproof for someone to follow.
And that golden thread is so important, because if you do ask the right question at the right time, it means, number 1, you don't have to ask the client later, but having it in your pocket means that you can do something with it when you need it down the track. And that could be captured through forms, or there's no end of ways that you can capture this information into the platforms. One of the examples I want to give is, I got a whole pile of business cards here from the last, I think it was Avalon Air Show, or, Land Forces. I know a lot of people listening to this may want to go to Indo-Pacific coming up in Sydney in November, the big maritime festival. An example of a sales pipeline is you can get these 100 business cards, feed them into your platform, but you've only ever met them once. They might not even really understand who you are or what you do. But you can build a very simple sales pipeline, a 4 or 5 step pipeline, which might be, call them back, got a next meeting in, got a solution to them, working together. Just have a couple of stages that every single person that you capture or you come in contact with, you can take them through a journey on a sales process. Now, my point 2 was a sales process that cannot leak. So all of these opportunities, if they're just sitting on your desk in a pile of business cards, there is no progression. But if they are in your CRM against a defined stage, you know exactly what you need to do to get them to the next stage. And this is some of the fundamentals around CRM of why they're so important. Effective use of CRM is ultimately about being brilliant at the basics, following people up, giving them a call, sending them an email, but having it captured in one spot. You mentioned integrations a moment ago. Two basic ways, either native or third party. Can you just share what you meant by those two?
Yeah, well, there's three actually, because you've got native, which will basically be inbuilt integrations. So, like HubSpot, for example, has an app marketplace with 2,000 apps in it. So people have built those apps already. They've been approved by HubSpot and by whatever other party they're coming from. So, if it's a HubSpot zero integration, they need to be approved by both parties and they get
Yep.
verified and certified. And then they get put on the marketplace. So that's your native integration. You then have the next level down where an integration doesn't exist in the native marketplace, but it does exist in a third-party linker. So there's linkers out there like Zapier or Make, and basically they create the integration for you so then you can fulfill different actions. So, again, using HubSpot and Zero, you would connect HubSpot to Zapier, you would connect Zero to Zapier, and then you would then do actions within that. Now, with both those two, there's limitations for what you can and can't do. With the native integration, a lot of the time it might be something simple like syncing contacts, as an example. Using the third-party integrator, it might be you can create an invoice and there might be a next level up. And then the third and final one is basically a custom integration using API. So API is basically documentation that allows you to identify what can be done via an integration. Again, limitations for this as well. The API documentation will limit what you can and can't do. And a lot of the time, some companies will allow you to take information, will allow you to give information to them, but won't take. So there's a lot of considerations around that.
Let me get some practical examples of that. So when we're talking about a native integration between HubSpot and Zero, two platforms that are pretty common in the marketplace, I always think of it like plugging an iron into the wall. If it's native, you just need to plug it in and it works. But you have to understand whether the data will push or pull. So if you've got a contact in Zero, i.e. Pete Liston, if it's a push and pull, it will automatically, between HubSpot and Zero, just match the data. But sometimes it might go one way, sometimes it might go the other way. And that's why when you need more functionality that you look at the second one. The way that I describe Zapier or the third parties is when you've got to put an extension cord between something. It's that link between the two. And you'll probably get more options for more data to travel back and forth, which means if I put an invoice into Zero, then that invoice details automatically gets populated in HubSpot, or vice versa. If someone fills out a form on my website and it's captured in HubSpot, then we can make it automatically end up in Zero. So it's really important for productivity and speed to do that. The next thing,
and there's some other considerations just around that as well, because obviously native integrations are free. The third-party integrations come with a subscription cost. Which may seem cheap to start with. It could be $40-50 a month, but that could be ongoing. And then the API integration will generally have a higher cost up front to set it up, but then there'll be minimal costs ongoing apart from some maintenance as well. So, in some instances, if you've got a lot of Zaps going, your Zapier cost could end up outweighing the cost of a, actual custom integration.
Yeah.
So it can be more beneficial to look at those different options. And again, it just depends on what's available. And what the APIs can do.
And again, a zap is just any time that information goes back or forth. So each time it does one of those, that's one zap. And it might be like a cent or something a zap. But if you've got thousands of customers and thousands of things moving across, this is where it starts to add up on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and some zaps can be actual multi-step zaps as well, which would actually be, one task per, it's not just one task per zap. It can actually be, if there's 5 steps in the zap, that would be 5 tasks, which will cost you that as well. So Can definitely add up. The apps can definitely add up over time if you've got a lot going.
But again, you've got to weigh this up between manual data input. And if you're paying someone 20, 30, 40 bucks an hour, this is where the sort of the cost effectiveness comes through. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. Email automation and SMS automation, two very simple tools to either tell people about what you're doing or share with them what the next steps are in terms of what they need to do next.
Yeah, I think like, invaluable tools for just sort of streamlining the way that you can have additional touch and nurture points with clients. Obviously there's great differences in both around, the way people interact with them. At the moment, obviously marketing automation, especially marketing emails, open rates for that sit around 30, 40%. Compared to SMS, which can sit up as high as 80 to 90% open rate. Definitely not as saturated at the moment. Having good, strong like marketing email lists though is still very important for businesses because you can get a lot of business out of it, and it is something of interest, to make sure that you're approaching both and giving both good thought process. I think the way that it could look real time is throughout your pipeline, especially in a sales process. Anytime there's a point where a deal may stall for whatever reason, that's a really good point, a place to put in some like messaging automation, which could look something along the lines of, 3 days after they've been there and no action, an email could go out. Maybe a day after that, you could have an SMS, a couple of days later, another email, another SMS, then maybe a follow-up call task for one of your staff. So what you're doing is you're negating the need for staff having to constantly call and email these people, every 3 days. And allow, the system to take over and to manage it and still to notify someone when it's actually time for them to call.
Mate, I'm just going to, again, unpack up what you said there about the system taking over, because ultimately, the less that I go back. Someone told me something many years ago that I remember is we don't want to run the business. We want to run the system that runs the business. Okay. And the more evolved the system can be, the more ability we have for scalability and for us to somehow not necessarily get out of it, but to elevate ourselves and to do more important things. And in terms of automation, there's a few things automation can do. So number one, you can set an automation to release a message on a certain trigger. And again, one of the key things about CRM is the trigger identification. If you do this, it will do that. If you set a date, it will do that. So it's just so what's next? So you can automate a message send. You also mentioned automating tasks. Now, why is that really important?
Yeah, so I think there's a few schools in automating tasks. Like number one, it's important because then people know what they need to do when they need to do it. Most CRMs, including HubSpot, will have it so that you can automate a task to a peer, you can send reminder emails, you can do things like that. There definitely is some like considerations around automating too many tasks, because I do find if you automate every single task someone's meant to do, all of a sudden they could have 100 tasks a week they're meant to do, 20 of which are tasks that are just for the same thing. And so they stop ticking them off. Once you stop ticking off one task, your entire task list becomes redundant. So we do try to limit automated tasks unless it's for really key aspects, and replace that potentially through, fields or data, or just understanding that, anytime there's a new inquiry that comes in, I know I need to call this new lead. Yeah. And the fact that it's in that stage is just my indication I need to call it. And while it's in there, I haven't called it. So I don't need to like automate a task to say, call this lead, because I just know I need to.
It's a no-brainer. And one of the things that I love about that's picking that moment of calling the lead. One of the things that I love to do in a sales process is if you, for example, fill out a form on our website, which then feeds into the CRM can alert you immediately that that form has been filled out. So literally, we know that there is someone on our website right now. So if you get that alert on your phone in real time, the challenge is then, can you ring that person while they're still on your website and look for this one effect that when they go, oh, geez, that was quick. And you're like, wow, I know that because that's what we do. And these are some of the, again, being brilliant at the basics, really simple stuff that a CRM can give you. In terms of marketing, just skipping through some other points, you can run your paid ads through marketing. You can do your social media. Obviously, we've got, email and text. And the important thing about being able to identify and run marketing through your CRM is attribution. Because if you can identify attribution, did this lead come from LinkedIn? Or did someone click on a paid ad? Or did someone click on an email? And how many times have they been on their website since they called me? These are some of the really, raw but powerful, factors to attribute where you should be spending your money. Because one of the things I always believe about marketing is we're testing, adjusting, but we simply want to know what works so we can do more of it. And if we know things don't work, let's cut the spend and do less of it. And your CRM will absolutely tell you. Last thing I want to share about is reports and dashboarding. How easy is it to build a report, and what makes, good information?
Like report building, especially in HubSpot, is very easy. The key thing is to make sure that you have the data in there, and that's probably something that can be less easy. What I mean by that is if you want to report on, the amount of deals that you've won that month, that's easy enough. But if you want to look at the dollar amounts for each deal, well, you obviously can't report on that unless someone's written down the dollar amounts in there. Now, the great thing is HubSpot does have a mechanism where when you move a deal into a new stage, you can pop up as a required field and ask you questions to be like, what date was this deal won? What's the dollar amount? What's the product type? And you can use all those things to then go and create custom reports. Now, within HubSpot, they've actually got it so that you can build, they've got a range of templated reports where you can go and search from the report library. You can then, if that report doesn't exist, you can then go and build custom reports. And you can actually as well now, within the last couple of months, use AI to help generate, AI generated reports where you could say, I want to see how many deals I've won this month, and it'll give you a report. Like obviously maybe not always 100% correct, but it's a pretty good start point.
We've talked about HubSpot and we've talked about what CRM can do. And I just want to reiterate one point. If you want to sell your business, if you want to leave your business, if you want clarity in your business, get a CRM. I can't enforce it strong enough, because ultimately, no matter what business you are, if you want to sell or get out, a potential buyer is simply going to come to you and say, where's all the info? And if you don't have it in one spot, that one source of truth, number one, I think the value of your offering goes down. But number two, it's your way to break away from that exit moment rather than having to stay there potentially for years to suck that information out of your head again. So I believe is a fundamental thing that every business should do, because if you're building an asset to exit one day, or even just an asset that someone can run for you one day, you've just got to have this data in this one source of truth. Now, what I'm going to do now is I want to switch across to what CRM is right for you. Now, obviously, we're HubSpot partners. We love it. We're advocates, but we never always use HubSpot. Just go through our journey in business and the platforms that we've used and why.
Well, I think we probably started with Excel or
simple Excel
Google
sheet,
Sheets, like most people
columns.
did.
Yeah.
At the time, there's no cost to it. I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of business owners to make that move. But obviously, as you grow, Excel has its limitations, and even if it is working now, it's not something that's sustainable long term. The ability to leverage technology in business is probably one of our strongest assets we can have in terms of growing successful businesses. If we're not leveraging technology, then we're really putting ourselves behind. And I'm not saying that you can't be successful, if you don't have a CRM. I've seen a lot of businesses that are doing 10 mil plus without CRMs. They're probably the outliers, and they've probably done it a little bit harder than they need to, because implementing a CRM will make it a lot easier for them because you can leverage tech in so many different ways. To be honest, I think after that, I know we used Insightly for a while. I can't really remember the details around it. I know that was our first business, Secure Windows. I know we then moved to Active Campaign.
We had to play with Copper as well for a little bit.
Yeah, we played around with it, but we were mainly on Insightly. But I don't think
Insightly,
we moved.
yeah.
I don't think we moved to Copper.
Well, Insightly was great, but it was a little bit more operations focused than sales and marketing focused.
Yeah, it
Active
didn't have
Campaign
great.
was pretty good.
The campaign was good. We were on that for quite a while. We're still partners there. Don't use it as much anymore. Really strong for email marketing, but that's probably about it operationally. And even a lot of the other marketing features just aren't there compared to HubSpot and other platforms. Probably made the move to HubSpot, 4 or 5 years ago, and really haven't looked back. There's obviously a lot of CRMs out there, and I definitely would say the first thing that you should do when looking at any CRM is identify, the 3 to 5 things you need it to do. Quite often, if it's generic and it's like, I need to manage my sales process, I need to manage operationally, I need to send marketing emails, I want to report, you know, you're looking at a bread and butter, off the shelf CRM like HubSpot. If it's anything specific, and I definitely vouch for industry specific CRMs, if
Trade
you're in the
particularly.
trade industry
Yep.
and you need a CRM that's going to manage your quoting, you need a CRM that's going to help you with your inventory and it's going to be very specific, then 100% probably don't look at HubSpot or Salesforce or anything like that. What I have seen though is a lot of the time people will start with one of these other platforms like, as a trade example, Simpro or Tradeify. And then as they grow, they'll come back to HubSpot or come back to other platforms because they realize that while the platforms are on really good operationally, it's not great for sales and marketing.
Yeah.
And so they'll use, HubSpot for sales and marketing, pass to Simpro, when it gets time to quote, manage it operationally and everything in there, but pass back data so they can report and segment on it through HubSpot.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And even though we are advocates of HubSpot, we're not blinkered here that it is not right for everybody. I would say it's right for most people, but absolutely not everyone. And you need to do your right diligence on that. You can even twist and morph other platforms like Monday and those kind of things into CRMs. But again, you said it at the start. It's just about process. And it's about expressing the right process through the platform. In terms of pricing, I know that we get pinged by HubSpot. Well, I guess we cough up between maybe 60, 70 grand a year for the platform. I don't want to scare anyone on that because we have a very advanced model and we use it like with heaps of functionality. But if this is your first CRM, no matter what one you're going through, there's probably 3 options to look at. There's the free option, which is like getting your first car. It's going to be limited. It's going to be okay, but it's going to be better than nothing. Then you're going to probably look about 30 to 40 bucks a month, where you're going to probably move from, your Holden into your, let's just call it a Camry or a Honda or something that's a little bit nicer. You're going to get aircon and you're going to get a few other, bells and whistles for your 30 or 40 bucks. After that, you're probably looking, at 100 to a couple of $100 a month threshold. If it's your first CRM, you should definitely not be paying thousands of bucks a month unless you have a very definitive reason for it. How do you unpack what people need?
We're going to it comes back to that question asked before around what are the 5 requirements you need for the CRM.
Yeah.
The CRM is based also around, and most CRMs are based around the amount of users you have. So, if you've never had a CRM before, but you've got 50 staff, then, it might well be that you need to be paying 2 or 3 grand a month, if not more, for a CRM, and that would be acceptable. But if you've got, a couple of staff and, you've got one salesperson in that, you've got a couple of operational people, you could probably be looking at $200 or $300 a month for a CRM that's going to allow you to, send marketing emails, manage your sales process, track things operationally, integrate with your other systems, and pretty much like create a system and platform that can help you run the business.
And for me also, it's about the engine in the business. And this is one of the key drivers or engines in your business. As a quick indication, I reckon if you're doing between 50K to 500K, you're probably looking around, 30 to 100 bucks in your CRM. If you're wanting to push towards, $1 million a month in revenue, the efficiencies, you got to put a bigger engine into it. So it's going to cost you more to get more features. And again, if you're doing over $1 million a year in rev without a CRM, first of all, bravo. But I would suggest there's plenty of opportunities for efficiency, particularly in your sales process about, making sure opportunities aren't being leaked out or disappearing left, right, and center. Mate, one of the things we want to do at VBC is to empower everybody in our community to have a CRM. And what we want to do, we want to run a program that helps every business owner understand what CRM is right for you. And we're going to do a demo on that. So on the 6th of August at 1 o'clock Sydney time, come and join us at our weekly Lunch in the Mess networking activity. Details have been in the show notes. Get on board and we'll take you through, our CRM. we'll show you what the fundamentals of CRM, and then we'll give some options about, what level is right for you. Now, I would suggest a lot of the people in the community just getting that free one, or maybe $30 a month is going to be enough for you. And we will be able to help you unpack, whether you need any more or whether you need any more, horsepower or firepower, under the bonnet. Mose, you'll be running that one, so appreciate your support on that. A couple of final words. Can you just describe to me what a mature CRM can do for a business, particularly, as you want to approach, a couple of 100,000 into the $1 million revenue mark?
Yeah, so in the end, like we sort of already spoke about today, it's really creating that system to manage your business. A CRM has many functions to it. It can pretty much manage and be an all-in-one system for your entire business, from managing database to managing your marketing, managing your sales, managing customer service. Especially as you grow, and we spoke about foundation blocks, there's so many other avenues that you can unlock, including unlocking AI functionality with CRMs. But in the end, what you're looking for is a system to help run your business so that people have something that they can follow and basically make it sort of foolproof, ability to be able to see what's going on at any time.
So if you don't have a CRM, or you got a CRM and you don't feel like you're using it well enough, you're not getting any automation, integration, or not getting good data out of it, or you're not happy with your current platform, either A, come along to that, the event we're going to do on the 6th at Lunch in the Mess, 1:00 Sydney time, or we'll leave Matt's contact details in his LinkedIn so you can reach out to him personally if you need to have a one-on-one about your business. But ultimately, what we want every member of the veteran business community to have is a foundational one source of truth. We don't care if you choose HubSpot or not, but we want you to have a business that's built on structure, that's built on systems, and that one day you can either get someone else to run it for you or even sell it. And this is what it's all about, is creating that asset. Mose, thanks for joining us on the Military Mindset for Business podcast today. Look forward to seeing you at the Lunch in the Mess in a couple of weeks. And mate, appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
My name's Pete Liston. Out.